Assalamu alaikum. Now I would like to talk about cell death. In cell death, there is necrosis and there is apoptosis. What happens in a cell death? This is a picture of normal glomeruli. Look, look at the nucleus. In here, nucleus is present. But in the second picture, there is no nucleus. In the proximal tubule, there is a nucleus present also, but in here there is loss of nucleus. So it means that when there is cell death, there is loss of nucleoli, and in cell death there are three processes, that is pycnosis, karyorrhexis, and karyolysis. What is pycnosis? Pycnosis means nuclear condensation. Pycnosis indicates nuclear condensed. First it get condensed, then it is broken down into several fragments. It is known as karyorrhexis, that means fragmentation, and karyolysis means lysis, that means dissolution of the cell. Dissolution of the cell. Now, in necrosis is never physiologic. It is always pathologic. And in necrosis, the high end point is, in necrosis, a large group of cell followed by acute inflammation. This is high end. That in necrosis followed by acute inflammation, and necrosis can be subdivided into different lots of parts, that is coagulative, that is liquefactive, that is gangrenous. I will discuss it step by step. First of all, coagulative necrosis. Usually all in our whole body, all ischemic infarction of any organ except the brain develop coagulative necrosis. That means ischemic infarction of any organ, that is liver, lung, pancreas, any organ except brain. In this place there is coagulative necrosis, and coagulative necrosis is kind of wedge-shaped. Look, this is wedge-shaped, and coagulative necrosis, in here the cell shape and organ structure are preserved. In here, cell shape and organ structure are preserved. This is high yield because preserved by coagulation of this protein. Cell shape and organ structure preserved by coagulation of the protein, but the nucleus disappear. In here, nucleus disappear, like I have told you that in here no nucleus. So nucleus disappears, but it holds its own architecture. It holds its shape and organ structure. And the area of infarct is wedge-shaped. I have already told you that area of infarct is wedge-shaped. And red infarction arises if blood re-enters a loosely organized tissue. If blood re-enters a loosely organized tissue, like pulmonary and testicular infarction. This is all about coagulative necrosis. Now, liquefactive necrosis. This is a picture of brain. In here you can see that there is ischemic necrosis of the brain. That means ischemic infarction That means ischemic brain infarction, abscess, and that means ischemic infarction of the brain simply can be told that in here there is in here there is liquefactive necrosis. Apart from brain, there are other areas like abscess, and in pancreatitis there is coagulative necrosis. In pancreatitis there is liquefactive necrosis. So three areas: ischemic infarction of the brain, abscess, and pancreatitis. In pancreatitis, there is release of the proteolytic enzyme, and this release of proteolytic enzyme within the pancreas, it actually auto-digests the pancreas and causes pancreatitis, and it actually liquefies the parenchyma. But other area like peripancreatic area, in there is fat necrosis. So if somebody told you that what type of necrosis happens in pancreatitis, two type of necrosis happens. One is liquefactive necrosis and the second one is fat necrosis. In liquefactive necrosis, the enzymatic lysis of the cell and protein results in liquefaction. The third one is caseous necrosis. Caseous necrosis, the classical example is a TB and fungus. In tuberculosis and fungus like Nocardia histoplasma, there is a caseous necrosis. It looks like, in caseous necrosis, it looks like cottage cheese like appearance. This is a picture of another picture of caseous necrosis. It looks like cottage cheese. It looks like a cottage cheese appearance, and it is the combination of the two necrosis, coagulative and liquefactive necrosis. So this is cottage cheese appearance. Usually caseous necrosis happens in tuberculosis infection and fungal infection like Nocardia histoplasma, and it is the combination of both coagulative and liquefactive necrosis. Now, gangrenous necrosis. This is the ischemic area of the lower limb, ischemia of the lower limb. This is the ischemic area of the lower limb where there is gangrenous necrosis usually happens. This is kind of coagulative necrosis that resembles mummified tissue. This is kind of coagulative necrosis that resembles mummified tissue. That means there is a dry gangrene. And characteristic example is in the lower ischemia of the lower limb and GI tract. Ischemia of the lower limb and GI tract. If superimposed infection of the dead tissue occurs, then coagulative necrosis may ensue. That means a dry gangrene. This is the picture of dry gangrene, and when there is infection of the dead tissue and surrounding dead tissue regenerates, and that is called wet gangrene. Then this is the picture of fat necrosis. This is the histological picture of fat necrosis. This is a fat globule. In necrosis, in fat necrosis, this is another picture of fat necrosis. In fat necrosis, there is necrosis of the adipose tissue with chalky white appearance. This is chalky white appearance. This is chalky white appearance. In here, fat dies. There is release of fatty acid and calcium, and there is release of fatty acid. Fat dies, release of fatty acid, and this fatty acid combines with calcium and causes saponification of the fat. saponification of fat. And I've already told you that in pancreatitis, there in peripancreatic area, there is fat necrosis, and it is due to release of enzyme, lipase enzyme, which causes pancreatitis. And again, another area, like in the breast, the traumatic area of the breast, trauma to the breast can cause again that fat necrosis. And as there is fat necrosis, that means it is happening in the dying tissue and calcium is released. So in here there is a dystrophic calcification. Dystrophic calcification occurs in dying tissue, and in here calcium level is normal. On the other hand, metastatic calcification, there is calcium level is increased. In short, you can remember by in metastatic calcification there is mega calcium, and dystrophic calcification there is normal calcium and normal phosphate. Then fibrinoid necrosis. This is a picture of fibrinoid necrosis. This is the picture of fibrinoid necrosis. There is necrosis of the damaged blood vessel. There is necrosis of the damaged blood vessel. Leaking of proteins including fibrin into the vessel, which results in bright pink staining of the wall microscopically. And it is characteristics of the malignant hypertension. It is characteristics of the malignant hypertension and vasculitis. The fibrinoid necrosis is a characteristics of malignant hypertension. Fibrinoid necrosis is characteristics of the malignant hypertension and vasculitis. Suppose a patient is developing PE, that means preeclampsia. What will happen in this case? In preeclampsia, there is possibility of developing fibrinoid necrosis, which leads to malignant hypertension, characteristics from malignant hypertension, and it may lead to vasculitis. Now I would like to discuss about the apoptosis. Apoptosis, that means falling of leaves. In short, it is written in Robbins' book, The Falling of Leaves. It is both physiological and pathological. Physiological apoptosis happens in endometrial shedding. Physiological apoptosis shedding. Physiological apoptosis is usually seen in endometrial shedding, removal of the cell during embryogenesis, like syndactyly, removal of the cell during embryogenesis, like syndactyly. Syndactyly means multiple, that means more than 5 fingers in a hand, that means syndactyly. And the third one is CD8 T cell mediated killing of a virally infected cell. This is the 3 process where there is physiological apoptosis. And the morphology is again that 3 process: pycnosis, karyopexis, karyolysis. And apoptosis is mediated by an enzyme called caspase. Apoptosis is mediated by caspase. This is caspase. These actually mediate apoptosis. Look, this caspase is mediating apoptosis. That means apoptosis is mediated by caspase that activate protease. This caspase activate protease and endonuclease. Protease breaks down the cytoskeleton, and endonuclease breaks down the DNA. And this is the way of destruction of cell. So apoptosis mediates caspase. Caspase mediates two things: proteosomes and endonuclease. Proteosomes breaks down the cytoskeleton, and an endonucleation breaks down the DNA, and thus leads to apoptosis. And the caspase are activated. These caspase are activated by multiple pathways. That means intrinsic mitochondrial pathway. Intrinsic mitochondrial pathway, that means cellular injuries, DNA damage, and loss of hormonal stimulation. Cellular injury, DNA damage, and loss of hormonal stimulation leads to inactivation of this BCL2. This is ion. Leads to inactivation of BCL2. This lack of BCL2, lack of BCL2 allows the cytochrome C to leak out from the inner mitochondria. This is mitochondria. From mitochondria, cytochrome C is leaking out. Cytochrome C is leaking out into the cytoplasm and activating the caspase. So it is related. I am saying it again for the betterment. That means if there is DNA damage, if there is cellular injury, if there is DNA damage, then there is a loss of this BCL2. Loss of this BCL2 will causes the release of cytochrome C. Cytochrome C comes and activating the caspase, and the caspase will stimulate the proteasome and breaks the cytoskeleton, and it will stimulate the nucleus, and with the help of endonucleosome, and breaks down the DNA. And this is the intrinsic mitochondrial pathway of apoptosis. And there is another pathway that is fast ligand and fast receptor pathway. This is another extensive receptor ligand pathway in fast ligand, which is present inside of it. Fast ligand binds with the target fast death receptor, which is CD95 on the target cell, activating the caspase. It activates the caspase, and thus killing of the cell via apoptosis, and tumor necrosis factor, and another tumor necrosis factor binds with the TNF receptor in the target cell. It again activates a caspase. So two pathways. That means fast ligand binds with the target cell of the fast death receptor, which is located in CD95, and after binding with fast ligand with the fast death receptor, there is activation of the caspase, and thus causing the death of the cell. When there is activation of caspase, again the same pathway, the caspase will release proteasome and endonucleasome. Proteasome will break down cytoskeleton, and endonucleasome will break down the nucleus, and thus causing DNA damage. And there is another pathway that is cytotoxic CD8 T cell mediated pathway. CD8 T cell mediated pathway. What happens in here? CD8 T cell mediated pathway, it will release these two things, perforin and granzyme. Perforin will make pores in the membrane of the target cell. Granzyme from CD8 cell enters into the pore and activate caspase, and after activation of the caspase, again the same pathway, and thus killing will happen. And CD8 T cell and this CD8 T cell killing of viral infected cell is an example. And that is all about this cell death. Hope you enjoy my video.